Hey Max, isn't it rather sinful to do this sort of thing in your wife's camper van?
Isn't it? Honestly, Olivia bought a great substitute for a hotel room.
A hidden camera in the camper van caught a man and a young college girl making love. Furious, I boldly climbed into the driver's seat while they were still at it.
What? Huh?
I threw both of their clothes outside and started the engine. Ah! With a blank look on my face, I drove off while the naked man and woman were crying their eyes out. Hey, where do you plan on going? Isn't it obvious? Just think of the place you least want to go. That's your final destination. Let's enjoy this drive to hell, shall we? With that, I smiled brightly at the two, who were both panicking. My name is Olivia. I'm in my late 40s, and I'm a housewife who enjoys the outdoors. My husband Max is of the same age, and we met at a camping site. We hit it off there and started dating, which led to marriage. We both worked, and since we had the same hobby, we never had children, but we lived a fulfilling life nonetheless. I had a small dream. That was to buy a camper van and travel to various places with Max. And recently, part of that dream came true. I took out a loan and bought a camper van. When it was delivered to our garage, it was a bit of a local sensation, and everyone from small kids to the elderly people would say things like, "What's this?" or "This is cool." Now, all I had to do was take a vacation and travel on it. But just when I was thinking that, my work started to get busy. Overtime and working on holidays have increased, and while it's not like I didn't get any time off at all, I couldn't seem to find the right time where I could get enough days off. I did think it was bad luck, but having something to look forward to is a motivation for work. So I focused solely on work for the time being. Besides, I would go inside the camper van to enjoy the camping atmosphere while I was repairing it routinely. Sitting in the driver's seat of the camper van in the garage, thinking about where to go with it, when suddenly there was a knock on the door glass. Startled, I looked in that direction and saw a young woman standing there. "Sorry to barge in like this. I live in the neighborhood, and if it's not a hassle, could you show me the inside of this camper van?" Upon talking to her, it turned out the woman was a college student named Lena who likes camping. She heard that a camper van had been delivered to a house in the neighborhood and came by hoping to see how it looked like at least, but then she saw me deep in thought in the driver's seat and couldn't help but call out. I was pleased to hear that even young women these days are interested in camper vans, and I was happy to show her. But then I became conscious of the time. I had been working overtime until about 11 p.m., and after coming home and having dinner, I had been hanging in and around the camper van, so it was already past midnight. Even though she's a college student, I was worried about letting a girl stay out late, so I decided to postpone it. "I don't mind showing you at all, but it's already late today, so please come again during the day." When I said this, Lena said, "Okay," and went home with a happy look on her face. I realized afterward that we hadn't made any plans about when, but I figured we'd meet again soon since we're neighbors. At the time, I thought so in a positive way. A few weeks later, I had completely forgotten about the college student and was planning to take a break in the camper van that day as well. But the lights wouldn't turn on. It seems that the auxiliary battery wasn't charged. Did I use that much electricity? While feeling a bit puzzled, I turned on a flashlight to check the living space, and immediately I felt something was off. It wasn't ransacked, but it felt like someone else had used it. In particular, I was bothered by a smell that I had never smelled before in the camper van. I wondered if Max had used it, but if that were the case, he would be the first person to tell me about the experience. Whenever he used new camping gear, he always told me about it in details. So it probably wasn't Max. It was then that I finally remembered the college girl. But if it were her, she could have seen the inside just by asking me. There was no need for her to intrude. I thought about consulting this to the police, but there was no clear evidence of any damage. For the time being, I decided to buy a small camera online and set it up in the living room space as a security for a while. I would turn it on before going to work, and then collect it when I come home. For a while, there were days when nothing in particular was recorded. And then, a month later, one night after working on a holiday, as usual, I retrieved the small camera and inserted the SD card into my computer. Was it my imagination that I felt really awkward? Nothing unusual had been recorded on the camera for the past month, so I was thinking of quitting this soon. I haven't told Max about the hidden camera, just in case I thought I shouldn't rule him out as a suspect. However, I felt guilty about suspecting him any longer. As I thought that and pressed the play button, a shocking event was being shown. My initial suspicion had been correct. In the living space of the camper van were Max and the college student Lena. Both of them were in a disgraceful state. They were both being naked. So that's why Max couldn't tell me about his impressions of the camper van. The fact that it was with the college student of all people. Regardless, I cannot forgive them for their love affair in my camper van. So I decided to show them hell. Since that day, I've been pretending to Max that I have to work on holidays and have been going to a detective agency and a law firm. I asked the detective agency to investigate Lena's university address and the frequency of their affairs, and I consulted the lawyer about this incident and requested for alimony and the preparation of a certificate of content. The detective agency worked quickly, and information such as her address and the details were available in about a week, and it was found out that Lena was living on her own to go to college. I continued to have them investigate, and their affair became clear. Apparently, they were wildly intimate in the camper van only when I was out of the house for work on holidays. Other than that, they seemed to use a hotel after work or go to Lena's house. I felt nauseous, imagining Max moving into a college student's one-bedroom house. What on earth is he doing at his age? But I am not just overlooking their affair. The preparation for my revenge is almost complete. All I need to do now is wait for the right moment. That day, I told Max I had to work on a holiday and left. And then an hour later, I snuck back into the house without making a sound and broke into the garage. The windows of the camper van, front door, rear, all had their curtains drawn. I approached the camper van and listened. Then from the inside, I could hear the wild voices of Max and Lena. I felt as if everything was going hopeless, but I couldn't just stop here. I opened the garage shutter. Before the shutter could fully open, my parents rushed in and quickly got into the camper van. I had asked my parents to help keep watch so Max and Lena wouldn't run away when I thought of today's plan. From inside, I could hear Max and Lena's voices exclaiming in surprise. I also quickly got into the driver's seat. Then, on the passenger seat, there were clothes that the two had thrown off. I threw them outside and started the engine.
Olivia, what are you doing? I thought you were at work. Why are your parents here?
Max yells at me in the driver's seat from behind. Lena also starts saying, "Stop it! I'll call the police!" I reluctantly turned to the two of them and said this. "Be quiet. We're all going for a drive now. I already know that you two have been doing things in here many times. I have evidence. So feel free to call the police or shake off my parents or even try to disturb me from what I'm doing. But who would be embarrassed to be found naked if there's an accident? You two better think about it." After hearing my words, the two of them fell silent as if they had given up everything. Well then, let's start the drive to hell. After I started driving for a while, I heard a voice saying, "Hey!" Until then, no one had said a word, and the atmosphere in the car was exactly like hell. But Lena broke that silence. "Hey! Where are you planning to go? This is going to be a kidnapping, isn't it? If we turn back now, we won't make a big deal out of it. Let's turn back." It's outrageous that she's still not giving up at this point, and even talking as if I'm the bad guy. I felt like being mean to her, so I laughed and blurted out, "Where am I going? It's obvious. I'm taking all of you to hell." Lena let out a small scream. "Eek!" By the way, this is not a kidnapping. Rather, I'm trying to send them home. Look outside. Soon enough, you'll figure out where we're heading. Surely it'd be familiar to you. And then Lena pulled back the curtains slightly. As Lena saw the outside view, she started to tremble violently. No. This is our hometown. Please, I beg you, not my parents' house. My parents can't find out about this." When Lena said this, there was a loud thud as if something had fallen to the floor. Apparently, she fell onto her knees on the floor while being naked like that. However, unfortunately for her, I had no reason to listen to what she was saying. I didn't want to hear her annoying apologies, so I turned up the volume on the stereo and continued driving. When we arrived in front of Lena's parents' house, two people who appeared to be Lena's parents came out of the front porch. I didn't get out of the driver's seat but rolled down the window and asked, "Could you please get in the back?" I had sent a content-certified letter to Lena's parents' house and had also given them my contact information. Therefore, they had already been notified that I would be coming here today. Lena's parents, who nodded at my question, opened the door to the living area. and they shrieked, "Lena!" I'm sorry for this disgraceful sight. I brought her here while she and Max were making love. If you have any complaints, take it up to your daughter and Max. Oh, and if you two want to continue what you started, feel free to do so right in front of your parents. Looking back, I think I must have been quite mad at that time. But that's how unbearable it was for me to be cheated on in my dream camper van. The drive to hell wasn't over yet. The real show was just beginning. After leaving Lena's parents' house, we got on the freeway and just kept driving. Max seemed to have figured out where we were going next and kept his eyes down, saying nothing. Lena tried to make some excuses to her parents from time to time, but each time she did, she was slapped by her father. As for my parents, they were sleeping soundly, snoring. We kept driving for about 4 hours, and by the time we arrived at Max's parents' house, it was pitch dark outside. His parents, who must have noticed the sound of the car, came out of the front door, just like at Lena's parents' house. I had sent them a content certified letter as well, and of course, they knew that we would be visiting their house today. We were invited into their house, and Max and Lena hid their bodies with blankets. Once everyone was settled, I explained the situation. I told them how I had felt something was off about the camper van. I told them how I had installed a small camera and caught them in the act of cheating. And I told them that it wasn't a one-time thing, but they had their affair deliberately over and over again. The smell I sensed in the camper van was more likely from their sweat. Once I noticed this, for a while, every day, when I felt even a hint of Max's smell, I felt nauseous. But there was one thing I didn't understand, where Max and Lena had met. Can the both of you explain the exact circumstances that led to this? Saying so, while glaring at Max, he began to talk slowly, hanging his head.
It was on a day when you had to go to work on your day off, Olivia. I was chilling at home when Lena came to visit. Wondering who it was, I heard her out and she said she had made a promise with you to see the camper van. So I showed it to her instead. And then...
Just as Max was about to say something, Lena cut in loudly. At that time, he was the one who came on to me, so it's not an affair. Rather, I'm also a victim. I did nothing wrong. I was being threatened. Max began to argue, saying,
What are you talking about? Actually, didn't you seduce me? Sure, I did feel something for you, Lena, but I was trying to hold back. Then you said it's okay not to hold back, and you were the one who initiated it.
From the audio recorded on the small camera, it is almost certain that the story that Max coming on to Lena was a lie. In addition, the investigation results also showed that she had been having her way with various men, such as male students from the same university, or the manager of the part-time job, and unknown older men she met at the campsite. So, in conclusion, she is a girl who just wants to have fun with any good-looking guy. Still, what a disgusting argument. It seems that I wasn't the only one who couldn't bear the quarrel, as both of their parents were scolding Max and Lena. Well, I don't care who initiated it, whether it was the horny monkey over there or that shameless woman there. What I want is for you both to sign this pledge, and for you, Max, to also sign the divorce papers. That's all. The pledge stated that each of them would pay $35,000 in compensation, and $43,000 for the camper. I don't want to use the camper where you guys made love in anymore. If you can't accept these conditions, I'll contact Max's workplace and Lena's university about this incident. So what do you both want to do? At that, Max's parents said,
Take care of your own mess. I'm cutting you off our family.
And left it at that. Lena's parents said, Please forgive us and spare us, while making Lena kneel on the floor and beg. By the way, my parents seemed to be holding back their laughter while watching the disgraceful behavior of Max and Lena. I had brought my parents to keep an eye on Max and Lena, but I didn't expect the two to keep their mouths shut to this extent. Max and Lena, realizing they had no other choice, reluctantly signed the pledge. Of course, I also had Max sign the divorce papers. Having finally become free, I felt there was no more reason for me to stay in this house. So I decided to leave, saying to my in-laws, I apologize for the inconvenience, but please feel free to do as you please from now on. What surprised me at that moment was the behavior of my parents, who had simply been observing until now. My dad placed his hand on Max's shoulder and started to speak.
Max, you're still quite young, aren't you? Having your fill of a young girl, how was it? Was it fun? Surely it must have been paradise, right? Well, you're in for hell now. Having to pay $72,000 and being abandoned by your parents. You still have a mortgage on your house, don't you? I wonder how you're going to survive from here on out. It'll be interesting to see."
As he said this, a broad smile spread across his face. My mom also gave Max a quick glance and said this. "Olivia is kind, but if it were me, I wouldn't hesitate to cut it off with a pair of scissors. I won't say what exactly it is, though." She then left him saying that. My parents, who are usually so unreliable, somehow made me feel relieved just a little bit. Afterwards, since my divorce, I've moved back into my parents' house. My parents, as always, are laid back. When I told them about the alimony payment, my dad started saying,
"Good. Let's use that money to go out for a nice meal."
but I don't mind his jokes now. I used the alimony money to buy a new car, customized for camping. I wouldn't buy a camper van again, as it only holds unpleasant memories for me now, but my desire to go camping never disappeared. Being single again has given me more time, and now I enjoy going solo camping on my days off.